Let's get an example about historical or sample return. ABC share has annual return of 20%, 10%, -4%, and 6% in years 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020, respectively. Assume risk-free rate is 1%. The first part of the question is calculate average yearly return. So before we start, let's get the variables we have in our question. So we have here all the return for the last 4 years. So this is an example of sample return or average return. Our formula is our average return is the summation of the return divided by the number. So I need to get the first return plus second return plus third return plus fourth return divided by the number. So here we have 20% plus 10% minus 4% plus 6% divided by 4. So this will give us an average return of 8%. The second part of the question is calculate the variance. The formula of the variance is sigma square equal the summation of each return minus the average square divided by n minus 1. Why we divide by n minus 1? Because this is a sample. If this is a population, we will divide only by n. What do I mean by population? We include all observations of the company. Usually we use a sample because if we use a population, it's time consuming and costly. Therefore, in order to get the variance, I need to get each return minus the average square and then get the summation for the second return minus average square and so on divided by the number minus 1. So our first return is 20% minus the average which we just calculated in the first point is 8%, close bracket to the power 2, plus second return of 10% minus the average 8%, close bracket to the power 2, plus open bracket the third return of -4% minus the average 8%, close bracket to the power 2, plus the fourth return which is 6% minus the average 8%, close bracket to the power 2, divided by 4 minus 1. This will give us a variance or sigma square of 0.99%. The third part of the question is calculate standard deviation or volatility. Remember that standard deviation is a statistical terminology. In finance, we call it volatility, but both of them have exactly the same meaning. So what will be the formula of standard deviation? The symbol of standard deviation is sigma. Therefore, our standard deviation or volatility is always a square root of the variance. Therefore, what's our variance which we calculate in the second point? It's 0.99%. If we get the square root of 0.99%, this will give us 9.93%. The next part of the question is calculate coefficient of variation. The formula of coefficient of variation is risk divided by return. What is the measure of risk here? It's volatility or standard deviation, which is sigma. So it's sigma divided by average return, which is R bar. Therefore, our volatility is 9.93 divided by our average return of 8. Don't put a percentage. So this will give us 1.24. Remember, if we give you two investments, all the time you choose the lowest coefficient of variation. The lower the better for coefficient of variation. The next part of the question is calculate Sharpe ratio. The formula of Sharpe ratio is our return minus risk-free divided by risk. So a measure of return here is our average return, which is 8, minus risk-free given in the question as 1, so we'll say minus 1, divided by our volatility of 9.93. Don't put a percentage when you calculate coefficient of variation and Sharpe ratio. So our Sharpe ratio will be 0.7. Remember, if you have 2 or more investments, you choose the highest Sharpe ratio. So the higher, the better for Sharpe ratio.